figured we'd do an update on the gardens. It's just about July, and July is the month that everything starts just growing. For a while we think it's just nothing's growing or it's just stagnant, but it's been a good year. Temps have been pretty good overall. Lots of rain, so I haven't had to water, which is always nice. This yarrow, I deadheaded this year. I decided to just let this whole area have yarrow in it because I don't grow anything here anyway. And yarrow has a lot of benefits, purported benefits. You do your own research, obviously, but supposedly it helps with digestion and things of that nature. So the white yarrow is supposed to be the best, and that's why I planted it. So I will harvest some of the flowers and the leaves for drying, to make various medicinal things. Have some of my butterfly weed about ready to bloom. Real pretty orange flowers they will be. You can see my compost pile is really reducing in size, but I will be adding to it here shortly. Now that the birds are at the butcher, I can clean that house out, start another, maybe do them again next year. Haven't decided yet. We might just stick with rabbits. They're a little bit easier. Some of my onions, because we've had some pretty heavy rains, have fallen. You can see that the stems have fallen over, and typically they will stop growing. So I'll get those out of the ground. You can see like right here and here, and we'll just use them as spring onions. We have already harvested some spring onions, but might as well get them out of the ground and enjoy them. I had started some spaghetti squash, got in the ground about a week or so ago, and they really are coming along fine. Hopefully they will be prolific. You can see the potatoes are just doing fabulous. Potatoes actually like cooler weather. And they are going to be tasty. I had leeks here last year, and I left a few in the ground to collect seeds. You can see it's about ready to bloom. More onions. I'm devoted not to grow as many onions as I did this year. I don't know. I do it every year, tell myself, and I still do it. I guess because in February when I start my onions, I'm just craving to garden. The okra is loving this area, unlike the other garden. Really a good spot for that. Some more onions I left in for seeds. What's exciting now, finally, is the scapes have arrived. And you can see them right here. These little curlicues. Typically you harvest them when they are curled, and then we can freeze them, put them in stir fries, soups, etc. So I'll get those off. And you want to get those scapes off or the garlic will not form a bulb. It will have a small bulb, but not the kind you want where it has multiple cloves. This area we used to have a huge bed of asparagus. But it seemed to always bolt so quickly. It was a big space, so we took it out. Sometimes I regret it, because I tell you what, that spring asparagus is so delicious, but we got more room now. We grew potatoes here last year, and as usual, I missed one or two. There's a volunteer coming up. These Saskatoon or June berries are starting to color, so we'll get those here soon. Ravado red currants are starting to be, I've been so busy in all the gardens doing other things, plus it rained like for 3 days straight, so I couldn't get in here. So I need to get these off. And the nice thing is what you do when you want to make your jellies and jams, have a mixture of unripe and ripened ones. And that way it makes the natural pectin in the unripened fruit will add to the jelly of the gel for your jams and jellies. I typically don't harvest too many of these gooseberries. In fact, I was going to get rid of it, but I just didn't. It's a nice early flowering plant. So I just kind of let them sit here. When I used to have chickens, I used to pick them and toss them to them, and they really loved them. That's one thing I miss about not having chickens laying layers, is nothing went to waste. They eat almost anything. These winter berries are about ready to bloom. You can see the flowering. This is, of course, just an ornamental plant. I planted it here so if I needed some shade, I had some shade for the plants. In fact, the potatoes look like they're going to be blooming pretty soon, and that's indicates that they're starting to form their tubers. Rose, oh, this is the thing I don't like having roses or even peonies. I'll have to come out here. What I usually have is a little bucket with soapy water. These rose chafers, they are just usually very prolific. There's a couple on here. I'll have to come, and they just destroy the flowers. So that's why it's always good. I like to surveil the gardens, see what's going on in them, see what needs some little help from me or what have you. Bug surveillance for sure. It's always nice to come in the gardens after rain. Smells good, looks nice. Kale here, it's gone to flower, to seed, so I'm going to let them dry up and I'm going to collect these seeds. Got a few radishes. In fact, I want to do succession planting so we can have some radishes. Once they start coming above ground, it's when you want to pull them. I already had one. Always seems like such a slow, like I said earlier, so nothing seems to want to grow or germinate, etc. But then all of a sudden, overnight, it does. Last couple of years, we haven't got many apples from our Lodi, L-O-D-I tree, but it's pretty prolific this year. See if we can beat the birds to them. Last year, it was so dry here, the birds actually pecked at almost all the apples. I gave them to friends so they could make cider. So they didn't go to waste. But that's the first time I ever saw it. Even the wasp and bees and stuff were all over them. Loaded with the blueberries here. Shouldn't be long before we start harvesting them. The false indigo is done blooming. Got a few left, but you can see they're growing the pods, and you can really see how they resemble the pea family, if not in the flowers themselves and the leaves, but also the pods that they will grow. And again, they will get bigger, they'll turn black, and I think that's what they use to use it for dyeing purpose, dyeing clothing and such. But get them off if you want them to be everywhere. Very prolific. Got a parsnip. I like to have some in each garden. I need to start doing that in the other garden so I can collect the seeds. They don't store well. Parsnip seeds do not store well. They're almost like paper, and that's why I grow them every year. So if and when I choose to grow parsnips in the gardens for a crop, I'll always have seeds. Plus, you can see it's in the carrot family, dill family, same type of umbrella type of flower cluster, and the pollinators just love them. Started tying up the tomatoes, especially we've had such fierce wind. Luckily this garden is somewhat protected from the wind because we have a garage in front of it, but they were starting to get pretty wrecked, so got them tied up. I like to use jute twine, J-U-T-E twine, and because it is compostable, so if I throw it in the woods with the garden debris, I don't have to worry about it. It'll just compost over time. It was really nice too this year. Like I said, I used to grow hundreds of tomato plants, and this year it's just 10 minutes I was done. Usually I would spend so much time on my tomatoes, the other crops kind of got neglected. I had to restart my bush beans because the first time I planted them, we got such a large amount of rain. I think they just sat in the ground and rotted. So you can see them coming up, and now that, like I said, July is usually a really good month for things to grow, and that way, again, this is only one of the few vegetables I will be canning, but it's a 58 day for harvest once they germinate, so they'll come up quick, and we'll get them started. I like bush beans because they all kind of come in at once, and that way you can be done. And they seem to germinate, not germinate faster, but be harvested faster than pole beans. That's just been my experience. My green onions are doing well, about ready to harvest. Now these were sets, because I always worry about failure, so I always buy some sets. And you plant them a little deeper than you normally would, so you get more white. Typically, if you're going to grow them as a bulb onion, you kind of just plant them in the garden, just even with the tip showing, or just below the surface. Tomatillos are really doing good. This is what I'm looking forward to. That's also what I'll be canning, some Tomatillo salsa. Finally, my geraniums are coming up. Seemed like they took forever as well. I thought they were almost dead by the time I got them in the ground. The bulbs looked like they're absolutely dried out, but here they came. My zinnias that I started from seed, gotta have flowers in the garden. It attracts a bunch of beneficials, and they can help be predators for bad bugs. Cilantro's coming up. I do not follow the rules a lot of the times. They say, you know, what the spacing should be. I just throw them all in and they grow just fine. They don't get crowded out. So you can break the rules in gardening. You can see my blanket flowers are coming in nice again this year. They look like an Indian blanket almost, the different variations of colors, just beautiful. Oregano is about ready to flower. Oh, we did get a lot of rain. This was empty. Nice. The pinks, I definitely verified it's pinks, the dianthus. So it's kind of nice. I know I planted pinks over here before, but this variety didn't bloom last year. So interesting that the seeds stay viable. Very nice. Real happy with this fennel that I purchased. Looking real good. I love fennel. I think I'll start from seed next year. I tried to put seed in the ground before, but it never did anything. So easier just, and I'm going to devote myself more to planting next year or starting seeds indoors. I kind of got away from that to make my life simple, but it's just I've got to start doing it again, especially when I'm waiting for seeds to germinate. The weeds always germinate first, and you can't really hoe around them or anything until they come up, so make my life easier. I had to restart some of my pickles as well, but they're a quick harvest because, again, after all that rain, I think they just got washed away, but fortunately, there's a handful here, so I did plant some more. This is the okra here. The grasshoppers are loving on them. I've been trying to get them while I see them. So they are finally getting ahead. They're just a little slower. There's more here too. I did plant it a little too soon. I just wanted to get everything in the ground. They were just now getting their first true leaves. I didn't wait for the second leaves to come up, but that's okay. The plants are very strong. I admire them very much. Won't be long before we get some zucchini. These plants are looking pretty good. Gotta be careful I don't step on a zucchini, especially since these darn grasshoppers are eating their leaves. Got a potato here from about a couple years ago that just decided to grow again. I'm leaving this ground fallow this year. I'm going to put a bunch of compost on here to kind of energize the soil for next year. My pie pumpkins are flowering massively. Now, when you see your flowers, you'll see that they always have their male flower first, and you can identify it by the stem inside. And then after a couple rotations of getting only male flowers, the female flowers will show up, kind of like Adam before Eve type situation. Pretty interesting how the intelligent design is even in plants, birds and bees, everything like that, right? We are going to be flush in crab apples. I'm going to store a bunch of them for my rabbits for winter treats, put them in the root cellar, and they can enjoy that. I used to buy apples when we didn't have any for my rabbits when we had them before, and they just love apples. Rhubarb that I transplanted from the other garden, looking real good. This one doesn't have any on it, which is probably good because it's just recovering from almost dying. So it's probably decided to say, I'm not going to grow any apples this year. Plants are smart like that. They're intuitive, know what they need to survive. And that's what happens in the month of June, July-ish, is what they'll have is the apple drop, the June drop. You can see a whole bunch of little ones on the ground. In fact, I'll give these to my rabbits. And that way the plant knows it can only hold so much fruit. You know, I could pick some of them off as well, especially on a true apple tree, not a crab apple. You'll get bigger fruit if that's what you want to do. I generally don't do that. Shasta daisies are looking super good. This is a perennial. They also well be prolific too, so God deadhead them if you choose to. These potatoes finally are actually catching up with the ones in the other garden, the orchard garden, surprisingly. These are actually ready to flower on right here. I already got little buds coming up. So I planted these weeks after the other ones. Oh yeah. And you can tell they're different varieties. It's hard to tell, but you can tell the different this has larger flowers, these have smaller, and sometimes when they're first growing, they'll be a little purplish, so you know you have some purple potatoes. I should have some Yukon, Kennebec, Norland Reds. I have no russets this year. These onions are doing super good. These are the garlic. You can't hardly see them. They're so tiny. These are the ones I transplanted from those clusters I have in the gardens. I pulled one yesterday. It's got a little tiny bulb, edible, but I'll probably end up just getting rid of all that garlic that I miss every year. Some more flowers that are from onions that get seeds from. I have good luck storing my onion seeds, but you know, the books say 1 year, then they're not viable, but I've had better luck. Leek seeds seem to be better than those. This is that area I mentioned a couple weeks ago that was just filled with weeds and unfortunately a lot of germinated carrots. There's no way I was going to be able to get all those weeds out. And I didn't want them to go to seed, so I'm trying to control them going to seed so I don't have more weeds next year. Although that's just a fact of life. When you got dirt, you're going to have something grow in it. So I went ahead and seeded it again. 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, I believe. Some more geranium, or not geranium, but gladiolus coming up. I love geraniums, I guess that was on my mind. My foxglove over there that I started last year from seed, coming up, real nice with flowers. Hummingbirds just love them. Real pretty. And there's some volunteers over here I'll let go. Might end up transplanting it, but right here they're decided to grow. This red leaf lettuce, we can start eating on that a little bit. It doesn't get much bigger than that. The store-bought cabbage is doing fabulous. Only saw one cabbage moth so far. Let's try to keep them off of them. Right here I planted kale. I have to I'm going to do it again. I'm going to wait till it gets a little cooler. Again, I think that heavy rain we had for days and days just drowned them. Oh, got coneflower finally. Been waiting for those. One of my favorite flowers. This is always a nuisance, these flowers here. It's a Minnesota wildflower. They grow everywhere. Oh, another one here, nice. This is a parsley that's gone to seed. It was here from last year. So again, you can tell when it goes to seed, it's going to be similar to the umbrella type of flowering cluster. And then I got a whole bunch of volunteer here. That's why I let it go. Get some volunteers. Here's my nemesis right there. Look at them. They're so fast. I can't believe I got that one. A couple weeks ago, and I think one of our last garden videos, when we were out here looking around, I saw some bugs and I killed them. And I got him too. Haha. I love that. It's a good feeling. So I killed those couple of bugs. I found out they were called blister bugs. So you're not supposed to kill them by your hand because they can cause blisters. But what they did was just decimate these poor false indigos. And I would come out a couple times a day. And I, again, with the little bucket with the soapy water, them in there. And I finally got them all. And I guess from my research, because I had never had blister bugs in my garden before, but every year is different in gardening, is I guess they kind of lay their eggs at the base of the plant and then they actually eat the larvae of grasshoppers. But I'd rather try to catch grasshoppers than have them kill my flowers. So, rhubarb here, I got to cut them stems off. Yeah, I love days like this. Nice and cool, little wind, you can hear the birds. Beautiful. Oh, my Victoria, I think it's called. Been a long time since I've been in a garden for so long. That purple flower in there, that kind of related to salvia, I think. Sweet. That's our garden update. Thanks for watching. See you real soon.
Today was half price pink tag day at Salvation Army. So I picked up 2 fishing poles for $6. I got plenty of fishing poles. I couldn't help myself, especially when I picked this one up here. This one had little lights on it. How cool is that? That's so cool. Can you see that? So anyway, for $6 you can't go wrong for 2 fishing poles, so I'm going to restring them. Oil them and restring them. Put them on the side of the Kodiak, you know, on the side where I can reach them without opening any cabinet or anything. That's the plan, Stan. This is some 8-pound test. This one's got plenty of grease on it, so I don't need to worry about oiling it up. Plus it's plastic anyway. Okay, here's the first fishing pole. I got invested, counting the line, probably about $4 in. Thought I caught something. Both rigged for live bait, one for bottom bouncing with a Lindy rig, the other for with a slip bobber. So we're talking $8 for 2 fishing poles. People can't look past when these things sit in thrift shops and stuff like that. People can't look past the fact that they're cheap Zebcos, and they are, but they'll catch fish all day long. 100% guaranteed. Big fish too. I put 8-pound test on both of them. Like I said, I mounted one with a Lindy rig, one with a slip bobber. One to get to the bottom, one to float. And you can't, when you see these things for the price, you know, $3.50 a piece, you got to jump at that, I think, even if you got a lot of fishing poles, because you could be out, you know, camping and having a good time, and some kids, grandkids, or some kids or whatever, you know, want to go fishing, and they're tent camping or whatever, didn't have any fishing poles. Well, you'll have a couple of extras for them. Plus, they'll be conveniently located, just sitting right on the side of my Kodiak, and you know, I don't have to worry about anybody stealing them or anything like that, because they're cheap, and I don't have much. I have $10 invested in both of them, including gear and line. So this, and plus this one lights up, which makes it cool at night. So yeah, I dig it.